Hello and welcome. In this video, we're going to implement validation on our gradebook application. So far we've seen how we can add, edit, as well as delete some of our assignments. As we're adding and editing assignments, we want to make sure the data that's being inputted is correct, whatever correct may look like. We don't want any illegal characters. We don't want anybody to try to exploit our application. So we're going to input some validation. Again, we're not going to go full-blown and implement every single type of validation, but rather show a few examples to get the idea. So let's go ahead, jump into Liferay Developer Studio. As usual, I'll go ahead and clean house a little bit. Let's collapse some of these folders so that things look a little bit more neat. So we're going to head over to the Gradebook API. We'll say goodbye to the Gradebook web just for the time being. And let's head over to where our exceptions will be at. So gradebook exception, and that's where we'll find the assignment validation exception. So this came about when we added that assignment validation exception in our service.xml. Let's head over to our materials here. All right, I'm already there. So let's go ahead and we'll copy the snippet and we'll add it to the class that we have here. Right, we'll add it right above here. Using Control-Shift-O, we'll bring in the Java util list, right, implementing a new constructor. So here in the constructor, the big difference we'll see is this list called errors. The functionality of the list of errors is as it sounds. It's going to contain all of the errors that may arise as we're going through the validation. We're going to use that list of errors in such a way to where we can display these messages back over to our end user. So for now, having this list so that we can contain all of the error messages. Right, still here in the Gradebook API, we're going to create a new interface for the validator. We're going to create a new package as we create a new class. Right-click the source main Java, head over to new, followed by class. Right, so taking care of two things at the same time. So com Liferay training gradebook. We're going to then add validator, so with a V. Check your spelling here, right? Be careful. And then the name of the class will be assignment validator. Assignment validator, like so. Once you have that typed out, go ahead and click finish. Heading back over to our materials. Brings us to our next set. So we'll go ahead and copy our next set of snippets. We'll go ahead and replace everything. All right, very simple interface, very simple API. So nothing too exciting here, just a validate method and a number of parameters that we need to pass to the method. We'll eventually implement this pretty soon, but we want other parts of our application, specifically the web portion of our application, to be able to leverage this validator, mostly in the implementation. So we want this package available to the rest of our application, the other modules. Let's head over to the bnd.bnd and make sure that the package that contains the validator API is going to be exported. So under exported packages, let's go ahead and click on that green plus button and select the gradebook validator. Alternatively, if you would like, you can also head over to the source and type it in yourself. I'll leave that choice up to you. I personally like the UI just a little bit easier. So let's not make too much work for ourselves. Let's also make sure to save along the way. We don't accidentally want an error to show up because we did not save. Next step here is we're going to implement the interface or the API that we just created. So we're going to create the package and the class at the same time. Okay, so I'll go ahead and right-click the source main Java, head over to new, followed by class. So the name of the package will be com Liferay training. We'll get down to gradebook. From here, we'll continue creating the new package .util.validator, and then we'll give this a name. The name will be assignment validator impl. So, okay, and we'll go ahead and click finish. Heading back over to our materials, I'll go ahead and copy, and then we'll come back over and paste. Right, not going to highlight too much here in the code. Again, just implementing the validate method that we saw over in our API. There's some comments here that allows it, that lets us know what's going on. The code is pretty straightforward, so we won't go into too much details here. So implementing the validate method, just double checking that some of the attributes of the assignment is indeed there. So we have the interface of the validator implemented. Next up, we're going to want to actually use this validator. So when we're creating our assignments, when we're editing them and so on, this is all happening within our implementation class, more specifically the assignment local service impl. So let's head over there. So recall that the assignment local service impl is here within the gradebook service, source main Java. You can find it under service, and then assignment local service impl. Recall from another video, you can also use the keyboard shortcut Control-Shift-R, and then you can type in like assignment local service impl and select it in that way if you don't want to look through. It also recognizes camel casing. So if you do assignment local service impl, you can pull it up that way as well. Leave the choice up to you. I personally like to go through the file structure. Right, so we're going to look for each method that we would want the validator to be called. But before we do, let's head down all the way to the bottom, and I want to add the reference to the assignment validator. So we're going to ask the service registry to grab us a reference of a specific API or service. Which one? It's going to be the assignment validator, and then just creating the object based off of that. Using Control-Shift-O to bring in our imports. So creating our API object, our reference object, whatever you'd like to call it, assignment validator, so that we can make our API calls. All right, let's scroll back up. If you want to copy and paste these next portions, feel free to do so. If you want to type it out, that's okay too. I leave the choice up to you. Just before any of the rest of this method is executed, we're going to want to make sure all of the information is valid. Otherwise, there's no sense in going through the rest of the method trying to create the assignment. So calling our API object, using Control Spacebar to autocomplete. And then as we autocomplete, it should bring up the tooltip here. So each one of these parameters look good. Again, just using that Control Spacebar to autocomplete. Okay, so we did that for the add assignment. We also want to validate our various attributes of the assignment as we are, well, updating it. So let's head down to the update assignment. And again, before we do anything special, we're going to want to make sure that our title, our description, and our due date is there as well. So calling our API object, I'll use autocomplete, Control Spacebar once again, right? And then the method is called validate. Okay. Each one of those parameters looks good. Let's go ahead and save the file. And anytime we make a change here inside of the local service impl classes, we're always going to want to rerun Service Builder. So let's head over to the training workspace, into modules. You can do it here at the root level here at Gradebook, followed by build, and then build service. We'll go ahead and let Service Builder run. So in the next video, we're going to go ahead and implement the rest of validation. We'll get those feedback messages coming our way and seeing validation go both server side and client side. But until then, I'll see you in the next video.